So Joe Biden, for probably 5 or 6 years now, has been having many senior moments, let's call them, where, his brain taps out mid-sentence, or he misspeaks, or he totally, forgets where he was going with something, or, starts telling a story and then cuts himself off and doesn't finish it, or tells a different story. I mean, we've all seen it. And it's kind of tough to watch, not going to lie, but look, it looks like it's getting worse. It looks like it's getting worse. So this happened the other night. This was a huge, huge story. Let me play it for you. Biden was at some event, and listen to what he says here, and then I'll break it down why this is so concerning.
Right after I was elected, I went to what they call a G7 meeting, all the NATO leaders. It was in the south of England. And I sat down and I said, "America's back." And Mitterrand from France looked at me and said, why, how long are you back for? And I looked at him, and the Chancellor of Germany said, "What would you say, Mr. President, if you picked up the paper tomorrow in the London Times, and the London Times said, 1,000 people break through the House of Commons, break down the doors, 2 bobbies are killed in order to stop the election of the Prime Minister. What would you say?" I never thought about it from that perspective. What would we say if that happened in another democracy around the world?
So why is that so concerning? Well, as this user points out here, Joe Biden says he recently met with Mitterrand from Germany. He corrected himself and said France, but Mitterrand was the French president between 1981 and 1995. He died in 1996. So, look, he was almost certainly trying to say Emmanuel Macron, but he said Mitterrand. Yeah, I mean, he's going gonzo, man. I mean, he's going. And he wants to, as Ryan Grimm says here, this guy wants to work the hardest job in the world for 5 more years. I don't understand. I don't get it. Look, if you take Joe Biden at his word and you take Democratic elites at their word, they say all the time, Donald Trump is the biggest threat to democracy this country's ever seen. And it's like, if you truly believe that, why wouldn't you want to put up somebody else against Trump? Because clearly, this guy's struggling. I mean, I'm at the point now where I think Kamala would do better than Joe. I think Pete Buttigieg would do better than Joe. I mean, I don't think I could think of a single Democrat that wouldn't fare better. In fact, all the polls show a generic Democrat beats Trump by double digits. It also works in reverse, too, by the way, that any Republican not named Donald Trump beats Biden by double digits. Nikki Haley was up 13 in one poll on him in a presidential race. I mean, that's where I'm at right now, man. And I got to ask you this. How many more examples like we just saw here do you think are coming during the campaign season? How many do you think are coming? And by the way, some things are fixable, others not so much. Like I always said, give Joe Biden massive amounts of uppers before he has to do any sort of public event. But what would an upper do in this situation? He would probably still say Mitterrand, but he would say it faster and with more life and vibrancy. Like, it's not going to stop you from saying the idiotic thing. You'll just say it more confidently, right? So what are we supposed to do with this? Look, I think it's an unavoidable conclusion at this point in time. It really is truly, deeply, deeply selfish of Joe Biden to proceed. It is. It's all about him and his legacy and his career. I don't doubt that he truly believes that, like, I'm the guy who beat Trump last time, so I could beat him this time. I don't doubt that he's sincere in that sentiment. But all of the objective evidence in the world points to the fact that that's actually not true. You are the biggest gamble of all the potential options. And clearly nobody around him has gotten this through to him in a way that lands. You know, on the one hand, you want to blame him for being selfish, but on the other hand, it's like, what about the environment he's in? What about the culture he surrounded himself by? People who are just basically yes men, who will not keep it real with him, who will not tell him, like, homie, what are you doing? What are you doing? Now, look, maybe if this was a one-off, it wouldn't be wouldn't be a big deal, and we could just look past it. But we all know this is like the 18th time some shit like this has happened. We remember even back during the first race. I remember when Bernie was still in, I put together a compilation, a mashup, an ad of like, here's all the times Joe Biden's brain shit the bed. And now he's shitting the bed like this in public. Look, on a serious note, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong on this, because I'm going off memory here, but I believe when he was younger, he had like a brain aneurysm at one point. And if you read about that, it says that, it makes it more likely that as you age, you have problems. You have mental problems. There's a correlation between that and like increased old age dementia or something like that. Again, correct me in the comment section if I'm wrong, because I'm going off memory, an article I read years ago now, but is that what we're seeing? Is that what we're seeing? And we discussed this the other day, but of all the issues that we talk about, like, hey, man, when did Biden's polling take a turn for the worse? There are policy answers to that question. But at the end of the day, the number one issue among normie Americans when looking at Biden is just his age. They just say his age. And moments like this, I mean, this is probably a bigger hit than even any one individual policy in terms of his electability and the perception of his electability. So, not good. Not good, man. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how the Democratic partisans are going to spin this one. I don't see how you can. The best they could do is just pretend like it didn't happen and move along in a dishonest fashion, right? That's the best they could do, because there is no like, well, it wasn't that bad, bro. Look, and you can't accuse me of being a hypocrite, right? Because I was out here when Donald Trump was saying Nikki Haley was responsible for the January 6th security. I was like, this guy's losing his fucking mind too. And there's plenty of examples on that front. But the fact of the matter is the perception of the American public is that Joe Biden is an order of magnitude worse on that front. And that's a hard thing to combat when he's talking to people who died in 1996 like he talked to them last week. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop. And watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.